Hey everybody! In this video, we're going to be covering more of the business secrets in Shane Dawson's third video, The Dangerous World of Jeffree Star. And the best part about this particular video is one of the most important points in the entire process is exposed in detail. And I'm going to show you exactly where that is and exactly what it means. So let's get to it. In excellent Shane Dawson style, the first thing that happens right out of the gate is we learn that product was stolen from Jeffree's warehouse. Now this is a really good indicator of how serious this video series is and how impactful the series was from last year. There are other manufacturers and other retailers and other suppliers taking Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star working together so seriously that they're willing to pay people to break in and steal their product for a whole bunch of different reasons that we won't get into right here. But that's the first thing I want to point out in this video. That's what starts this particular video. The idea that someone went to the trouble of actually breaking into a secure location and stealing a lot of product and a lot of other stuff too. So now one of the things that's pointed out in the process of discovering this theft is that Jeffree is forced to do something that maybe he hasn't always done. And now he also has learned a new lesson, as well as Shane experiencing it for the first time firsthand. He has to run background checks on all of his employees because, as you learn later, it seems that it was somebody from the inside that let out where the product was, how to get in, and then also how to shut the system down. And they had to know that there was no backup system for the cameras. It's very suspicious. And so Jeffree, as the owner and as the person who is responsible for the business, now has to take it upon himself to hire and have background checks done on everyone. Because unfortunately, in a situation like that, when there's that much money at stake, you don't know who you can trust anymore. And that's a very dangerous place to be. You have to be very, very careful. Now, of course, right after we learn about the product being stolen, one of the other things that comes out immediately at the beginning of the video is this other slur campaign focused on Shane. And the interesting thing is that you learn later that the actual chronology of these two events were one right after the other. The product was stolen, and then the next day Shane was attacked about his cat. And what a ridiculous claim to begin with. But the really beautiful thing about it is, after that whole experience with the theft and Jeffree and everything he's learned from Jeffree and how serious this is and how much money is at stake and how many people are counting on for their livelihoods working with Jeffree. I mean, you're talking about a lot of people that Jeffree helps keep paying their bills and taking care of their families. That Shane finally pulls up his boots and says, you know what? I am so tired of this. I am not taking this anymore. When something like this slur campaign with my cat comes up again in the future, I'm not even going to take it seriously. I'm just going to tell them, you know what? You guys shut up. I don't believe you. You're making this up. Oh, and by the way, here's a link to my palette. I think that's an incredible leap for Shane, an incredible step forward, and a big thank you to Jeffree for helping Shane learn to think that way and to overcome that hurdle. So at 10 minutes in, we finally get to go into the first product design meeting for Shane Dawson's line. Now the really cool thing is, once again, Shane proves how serious he's taking this entire process by coming prepared. He's done some homework of what he likes, what type of products he likes, what shapes he likes, what colors he likes, what designs, what names. That means he's indicating to Jeffree and to the entire team that he's taking this very, very seriously. This is not a joke, and he really appreciates their help. so much so that he doesn't want to waste their time. It's like any good meeting or any good business transaction. When you know you're working with someone who cares, they come prepared. They care enough to make sure they're going to do the job right. He knew he needed to be creative. He knew he needed to be organized, and he showed up on time and ready with everything that he could to get the ideas across to the team and help make the process easier for Jeffree's team. Now, during this first design meeting, it's really cool because you can actually see Jeffree's team feeding off of the excitement and the energy that Shane and Jeffree are both sharing. It's just intoxicating. You can feel it coming through the camera. In fact, it's fun to watch it just because they're having so much fun helping Shane and Jeffree come up with cool ideas. What a wonderful way to make a living. Can you imagine? Make something that's your passion, your job that you make money with, and then every day is fun. That's not work. They may be tired at the end of the day, but I guarantee you it's very satisfying once they're done with everything that they're supposed to do. Every day, I guarantee you, Shane and Jeffree go home and they feel really wonderful about the work they're doing. So the first round of color picking for Shane's palette occurs right about 18 minutes and 20 seconds. And this is one of the most important moments in the entire product lines process, because everything comes from color. All of the shapes, all of the different products, all of the different designs, everything has to line up with the colors that are chosen. And the colors and the story behind the colors and the names and the stories behind the names are what make those products so valuable. It's what makes the line, the brand, so valuable. I mean, come on, think about it. The colors that they pick, it's not the first time in the world that those colors have been used for products, especially for makeup. However, it's the first time ever that Shane Dawson has put his name on and picked and given names to and meaning to each color. So these are colors you've probably seen throughout the world. Maybe not as high a quality product as Jeffree's, but you've seen these colors before. However, now Shane and Jeffree have put more meaning to it with the names and the stories behind it and what they mean to Shane. And that brings real depth of meaning to the person who's purchasing that product. When they use it, they're going to be thinking about that. And they're going to be thinking about how they identify with Shane and they identify with Jeffree and each of the stories. See, that's one of the most important things you could probably learn from any part of this series, is that when you tell stories, that's how you get people engaged. That's how people are drawn to what you're doing. If you tell a really great story, it doesn't matter who you are or what the quality of your video is or how good your audio sounds, good storytelling always wins people over. It doesn't matter even how boring you think your life is. In fact, here's why. People think your life is really interesting and they would watch videos of your life even though you think it's boring. Do you know why? Because it's not theirs. That's it. Simply because it's not their story and they're convinced that their story is boring. They'll watch your story though, and they'll be completely enthralled. There's a really great secret right there. So at 22 minutes and 33 seconds, we revisit the idea of all of that merchandise being stolen. It's emphasized that it was an inside job, that they were extremely professional. They cut a roof in. They knew exactly what they were doing. And the really frightening thing to Jeffree was they were there for hours. They had a lot of time to scope out the facility and maybe even plant bugs or just decide to take samples of other product. I mean, there's a lot of things that could be not just damaged, but information that could be taken that are in computers and records and financials and account numbers. I mean, you're talking about a whole multinational. Jeffree goes international, and you're talking about millions of dollars that go through his business. This is serious accusations and serious business concerning the loss of some of that information if it was taken. So they have to be very thorough when they check not just inventory, but computer records, what was logged into, their bank accounts, make sure that other login information wasn't lost, social media platforms, other platforms, website information. Think about that for a second. If someone had access to all of your personal private information for hours, how would that make you feel? That's a really, really serious situation. It's just a mean, super, incredibly aggressive attack. And so that type of situation you have to be able to pull out of. Now, the wonderful thing is, actually, in that particular part, you see Shane switch roles with Jeffree. He actually becomes the person who reminds Jeffree, who is really upset still, listen, the bad things always seem to happen to us right before the really big good things happen. Now, it's curious because that's actually how it always seems to happen in everyone's life. Something bad happens that forces you to decide, I am no longer living this way anymore, I'm going to live this way. And then they have this big sweep of growth. In fact, if you were to draw it out on a chart, you'd see bad and then big growth and bad and big growth. Now, if you're just looking at the chart and you don't know what it means, you might say, wow, you need more of these things. You need more of these bad situations, right? So Shane actually is the person who steps up and follows Jeffree's model, which is to build the other person up, to lift them up and keep them focused on the positive. And isn't it interesting that what pulls them out of being anxious and afraid and angry and upset is when they get back to work. They get back to looking at colors. They get back to looking at the palettes, to laying it out, and they start to feel excited again, and they start to have fun together again. And then the next thing you know, the robbery is ancient history. The smear campaign is ancient history. I mean, we're talking robbery, next day smear campaign. That's on purpose. That's not coincidence. So how do you get past that? That's a wonderful example right there. If you didn't catch it, watch it again. Because as soon as they start working on the product again and working on keeping the process going, all of a sudden, all their cares are gone and everything is right again. That's how it should be. When you're working on a project and it makes you feel excited and it makes you feel energized and you forget all of the trouble that you had earlier in your life, that's the perfect project. That's the perfect project. So at 31 minutes and 45 seconds, we're still kind of dealing with the idea of the product being stolen, but it's made very clear by Jeffree that he wants Shane to feel comfortable going to bed at night. See, now this is Jeffree again managing his client. He says it's very embarrassing that this happened. It won't happen again. I'm going to make sure that all of my properties are locked down like Fort Knox. I'm going to have people sleeping in the building with guns. This is serious because he doesn't want Shane to feel nervous about not being taken, seriously as a client, which is really interesting because the one who has the most to lose is Jeffree. So obviously he has good reason for wanting to lock it down. However, it's curious that he handles the situation with Shane the way he does. He wants Shane to understand he's taking responsibility for not making sure that things were locked down better. He's embarrassed, he apologizes, and then he takes action to correct it. Those are very important steps there. If you make an agreement and you don't keep that agreement, then you need to make it up to the person that you made that agreement with. It's very important energetically. And maybe sometime in the future we'll do a video about that specifically and those steps and how it works. But for right now, just pay real close attention to that conversation. Okay, at 38 minutes, Shane is proudly sharing how he's working on getting better at putting on makeup and how he did an Instagram post with another makeup company to show everybody that, hey, I'm taking this seriously and I'm studying how to do makeup. And Jeffree looks at him and says, why did you do that? You just lost $250,000 to $300,000. Because it's a friend of mine, I could have got you that money for posting on Instagram for that one post. $250,000 to $300,000 for one post. Don't do that again. And Shane looks like he's going to throw up. He's so upset. He can't believe that he just did that. So again, Shane is starting to realize his true value now. He's worked so hard for so long. God bless him. He needs to be able to understand that he deserves much, much better. And Jeffree has come along at the perfect time to help him realize that before he just gives it all away. Because guess what? Other people will take it. If you just give it away and you don't know your own value, they'll just take it until you're completely bled dry and don't want to do it anymore. So Jeffree has come along and really breathed some real fresh life back into Shane, and that will help him to be even more creative in the future. So at 41 minutes and 50 seconds, we see that Shane and Jeffree are right back on track. They've completely 180'd from being upset and worried about the smear campaign and the break-in, and they are rolling down the track with greased rails. They are feeling good about the entire process, and everything is rolling along just like it should be. That's the vital energy that you need to maintain in any project as best you can, given each circumstance. Sometimes you need someone to help you come back onto the positive side. Sometimes you need to do something that just makes you feel a little bit better so that you can get towards getting back to feeling really good and excited. So look at them when they're working at that point and see that that's the right kind of energy that you would need in any project that you work on. At 48 minutes and 5 seconds, an epiphany is made for Shane by Jeffree and Andrew, actually. People will be wearing his palette during some of the most important times of their lives. Weddings, first dates, night out with friends, anniversaries, maybe even that'll be the makeup that they wear when they meet the love of their life. I mean, this is life-changing stuff. You know, a lot of people scoff at fashion. Oh, it's just fashion, or they make fun of it. But they don't realize fashion is in every element of life. It's art that lives with us day in and day out. In fact, the jeans that you wear, or the t-shirt that you wear, or the button-down that you wear, or the color jacket you wear, or the type of socks that you wear, or the kind of shoes that you wear, all came from a creative force in fashion, from some genius somewhere who had an idea, and people thought they were crazy until everybody loved it. And it was everywhere, and it became the cool thing to do, or the way to dress, or the way to be professional, or the way to look at a wedding, or the way to look when you go out on a date. Listen, this is big, not only big business in terms of money, but what they're doing, and this is why the colors, of course, are so important. What they're doing is setting a trend that will spread across a decade. Once colors are chosen and they become popular, you will find those colors in every element of life moving forward from that point on. You'll find it in advertising, you'll find it in other industries, in packaging, you'll find it on television, in commercials, in movies. Watch, go back through each decade, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000, 2010. Each of those decades has distinct color patterns, right? When you look at the style of film or the style of music or the style of clothing or whatever, you'll see color patterns, right? And now what they're doing, because of their celebrity and because of their exposure, they are setting the tone for the next few years or more. So be very aware of what's occurring right here. It may seem like it's just about Jeffree and Shane working together and isn't this exciting, but the fact of the matter is they're in an industry that has influence around the world in every industry. That's why it's so aggressively guarded. That's why people are so, they take such pride in it. It's art that lives in your day-to-day life and you don't even know it. At 48 minutes and 34 seconds, it becomes very clear that Jeffree is a leading edge person. He's a leading edge creator. He's a leading edge genius creative force. The industry standard is to play it safe. Hit the middle market where the bell curve is the largest in terms of who we're going to please. The most people are going to buy here because it's safe. These colors are safe, and there's a lot of people that feel better just playing it safe and being conservative with their makeup or with their fashion. But the fact of the matter is, Jeffree pushes those boundaries regularly, which is exactly what a good artist would do. And the wonderful thing about it is, he's discovered that the world is tired of safe. They're ready for something new and experimental, and now he gets to share that process with Shane, and Shane gets to push the edge too. I mean, this is really fun to watch. There's nothing safe about what they do. There's nothing safe about the colors that they pick. They're very purposeful, that they have to mean something to them, and they have to believe that the stories and the names of the colors will mean something to the people that are purchasing it too. That is the absolute best model you could possibly have. Playing it safe is not necessarily the best way to go. Now, if you're a larger corporation, sometimes you're forced to play it safe because you have to satisfy your investors and make sure you keep their dividends coming, right? Or else you're in big trouble, which is another reason it's really nice that Jeffree's company is privately owned and not publicly traded. It gives him the freedom to be really experimental and really push the envelope. But the beautiful thing is, when he does and it works, he gets to be the first out front, which means everyone will always remember that he did it first. This is very exciting because now Shane gets to be part of that first crowd too. So the last comment I want to make on this particular video, the third video that Shane Dawson did, The Dangerous World of Jeffree Star, is I want you guys to take notice when you watch that video how much time was spent on just picking the colors. Make it very clear in your mind. That is probably the most important part of the process. Just picking the colors. That's why there's so much time spent on it. Because once you have the colors, everything else just springs right out of it. All of the palettes, the different products, the different lipsticks, all come from color. It's a really wonderful example of what's really important in a process like that. In a manufacturing process, the idea is the most important, because remember, they're not just colors, they're names with a story behind them that match the color and the meaning, right? That's how important that is. Those ideas, that's the first most important step in any project. And so the wonderful thing about it is you get to see it right there in that video. It's also a perfect example of how incredibly profitable a great idea can be. So remember, never sell yourself short, because great ideas come from everywhere, from anyone in the world. You just have to know your value and then take action steps to make them happen. All right, so I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. And of course, to subscribe to the channel so that you know every time a new video comes out. And we're going to be doing a lot more of these because we still haven't covered all of the videos that Shane's put out on Jeffree. And the release is still yet to come. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe down below. Also, we'll have a link to Shane's video in the description down below. But even better, if you have any questions about money or mastering money, or you're interested in learning more information about the kind of stuff that Shane and Jeffree are working on in terms of mastering their own finances, we have a course called The Richest You Mastering Money, and there'll be a link down below where you can learn more. So we'll see you real soon, and thanks for tuning in.